which is not competitive, which is not violent, and which has something to do with the actual teams who were present with them in the hospital. So Mary White at the Montefiore and others of the teachers and what's called in New York the explainers, the educators who have themselves been sick kids and who are now volunteering their time to work with the teachers to make a full educational experience for them. We were then commissioned to make a haptic game, specifically using all of the other lessons learned from the motion capture work to help kids to calm down and heal while they were in their educational settings in the hospital. So this is a brief example from that. And this is now used in Singapore and Dublin and I forget where else, all over the world. This particular project called Trust has been set up. So again, using simple motion capture and very undignified movements, which the kids themselves can make and directed, we can grab this motion capture data and then attach it to some avatars which can move for the children who can't move themselves so that they get that same sense of embodied involvement, physical movement related to their learning environment. So this little guy is called Trust. He tends, this is Hope. She tends to hop up and down, but she can't get anywhere because she never moves forward. Trust is on wheels. He moves front to back, side to side very quickly, but never sees what's above. And the basic aim of the game is, unless those two learn to touch hands, nobody moves to the next level. So it's the main learning objective in that work is co-opetition. That the game is won and the educational experience gets richer and richer as two kids stop focusing on their own pain and limitations and start focusing a little bit on each other. And then the rest of the educational work continues from there. And just briefly, I'll show you where some of that work went back into a big dance piece, all of which will be relevant in a moment when you see the new technology tool that I really want to share with all of you. To wrap up on this section, it really is about taking what Clive Barker, the author of Theatre Games, describes as that access to the memory of childhood where we weren't self-conscious, where we didn't think of ourselves as us learning differently from you guys out there learning differently, but where we enjoyed the playfulness. So here you see kids in the Singapore hospital playing the Trust game. The kids here are drawing their world. The exercise I do with them in the hospitals is draw me a picture of what's off the end of your bed, the world that you would like to live in, that's right off the edge of your bed. Draw it for us. And over 9 months of working with sick kids, we then get a story which each child wants to live in and begin to make their virtual world their personal learning environment, which has been drawn by them. And then the professional artists come in and do the 2D and then the 3D renders of their characters. In Singapore, the little girl you're going to see there, Yasmin, has spina bifida, so she wanted to be represented as a giraffe. Because she wants to be tall and elegant and to fly and swim and dance and do the things that other little girls can do. So Yasmin, this is her personalized learning environment. This is a virtual world made by Yasmin for Yasmin, in which the giraffe is always present with a little girl called Yasmin on its head, and the giraffe can do anything that Yasmin wants to do. She can take her lessons in this environment, but she can also just maneuver through it, play it, and through the robotic chair that we made with Brian Duffy and the Media Lab gang, she can also move herself through this and get that same empowered movement, connected learning feeling that other kids can get. And finally, the same project in the Stephen Hawking School in East London. Stephen Hawking has sponsored this school for very special kids with very complex multiple disability. And here it's the same project, but stripped down again. All the fancy bits removed, very basic choices, engagement through the autistic spectrum, through the blind and deaf issues that some of these kids face, the movement limitations that some of these kids face, so that the same project becomes a virtual learning environment for each of these kids, with anything that might trigger an epileptic seizure removed, and with all the medical doctors and sensory experts helping us to make a version for each child, which might have an outfit. You can see the costumes and the puppets and some of the standard tools that we use to try to reach out to and connect with kids who find it difficult to connect to other people. And that project is going on, but the results of Trust inform all kinds of adult literacy and engagement projects as well. Okay, we're going to move from there to, except we're going to see her first. A lot of this work, I should explain before the next clip, you'll see that there are butterflies and flying creatures in all of this work, which is not accidental. In Second Life, it's not accidental that you usually fly as your main mode of transport, or use a boat or some vehicle to take you to an unknown place, an unknown horizon. So it might be these haptic chairs and these devices that we build, but actually the symbols that the kids from all over the world, from many different religions and cultures have chosen, the children have chosen butterflies, flying creatures, and angels, because they all describe the physical wish to move from here up and to reach up and open themselves, literally physically open themselves as if spreading their wings as they enter an environment. And I have to say that when I use Second Life, that's exactly what I do. I never use any other form of transport in Second Life, but only flying. And it may be to do with this same element of engaged, embodied, connected learning. I myself don't see very well. I was blind as a child, and for me, using the screen is not a natural environment, but flying certainly is for all of us. Okay, really briefly in the last couple clips, I just want to show how this work applies equally to adult learners and particularly elderly relearners, those who might have been injured or lost the ability to use standard interfaces, have lost some physical control, etc. So there's a couple of projects that look at that. And again, the general learning aims and models are the same. It's about partnership and co-opetition, creation of tools for each individual, made with and by the people themselves, or the children, or the partners, or the carers, or the people themselves. One example, we've been mentioning Second Life. I don't know if you all know that in Second Life there's a fantastic nightclub where it was made by an amazing man with cerebral palsy, who has designed the club in such a way that as you enter the Wheelies nightclub in Second Life, if you're able-bodied and used to doing anything except wheeling in a wheelchair, you'll find it very difficult to enter. So just in entering the space, you have to learn to navigate the Second Life environment as a disabled person. And once in there, you don't know whether the people you're dancing with and talking to and then having meetings with during the day are able-bodied or not, and it doesn't matter. Because it's a safe, equally accessible space for all. So it's an example of the kind of thing I'd like to see more of in these virtual environments. Briefly, again, an example of how we've used a scalable model. You might say, all of this is just made for one kid, one person. How does that scale? What's the economic model? This particular tool view here, which started from the Shakespeare tool we made all those many years ago, is still in use. This is in Morocco. We use it in women's shelters where women escaping from domestic violence and who've brought their children to be safe. They learn to use the computer to tell their stories and then to get better jobs so that they don't have to return to situations of abuse. And the kids can use the tools too for their learning and bilingual learning. Briefly, another example is there's a lot of work going on mobiles, augmented 3D on mobiles for learning. Some people might say, what has this got to do with anything? And what it's got to do with everything, I think, is the making of the learning experience portable, mobile, and truly personal. Personalized learning is a jargon term that we often hear, but in this particular application made by Ron Edwards, you can navigate your environment using your mobile, which will give you an augmented 3D signal when you get close to something or someone that holds an educational meaning for you. I'm sure you've seen some similar examples. This one we're using in the London Olympic, not just the stadium, the whole neighborhood of East London where the 2012 Games are coming, because the Paralympics are coming as well, and we need some big community projects that can navigate through this very complicated physical space. And here's the most scalable educational project at all that I've worked on.
A major partnership with the Boys and Girls Clubs of America to provide technology, hardware, software, and training for underprivileged communities nationwide. The results have been amazing. Club Tech provides programs that inspire youth to learn technology in a fun and exciting way, with a focus on the arts, and uses the advantages of technology